a session this morning regarding direct payments and some of the changes in on the finance side. Melvyn and Ian Richmond asked us to put a session on, and I think it's probably safest to let the specialist, Melvyn, take us through the session. So Melvyn's going to talk about the changes that are going to be happening. And then we'll have a Q&A session at the end. There have been some questions that have been submitted that Melvyn does. You have previously had copies of. Melvyn has answered, but if we've got time, we might want to revisit those questions. They don't come up during this morning. So if I can hand over to you, Melvyn.
Sure. We had a little presentation as well. I don't know if that could go on.
Yeah, I'll share screen now.
It just gives something to look at instead of looking at me, because I'm sure you don't want to.
We don't mind looking at you.
Okay. So the changes that are being made are around how the council collect your contributions. So anyone that's on the direct payment has a bit of a mixed got a bit of a mix at the moment, and what we want to do is make that a bit more consistent and fair for everyone. And I just want to make it clear now as well. One, because there is a bit of confusion between sort of my position and where I work. I work for the social care team, just to let everyone know. I don't work for the finance team. The finance team is separate to the adult social care care managers, so your allocated workers and social workers in the team. I work closely alongside them. And these decisions and proposals that I've put forward are all around service users' feedback experience, the social workers and the care element of it. We do know that direct payment has that financial element to it as well. And this is where we just want to make the clear separation between the two. Ideally, it would be a finance rep that would probably want to explain around the contributions, but because this is more around the separation and why we want to do this, I just want to make that clear from an adult social care perspective. So I don't work for the finance team, and this decision is being made on the adult social care side. Currently, direct payment holders would have either a net direct payment or a gross direct payment. And as per the diagram in front of you,
Marilyn.
Hello?
Sorry.
All right. And I'll just explain the difference very briefly. A net direct payment, and the reason I'm explaining is because different service users will have different options at the moment, and you will know what's relevant to your situation. A net direct payment is when the council pays your direct payment, but they take away your contribution first before they pay it to you. So you'll have an allocation of funds that's been agreed to you by the social worker. You'll have your contributions that's been assessed by the finance team. And before that payment is made, the finance team will take out that contribution before it's paid to you. And you would be expected to pay that difference into the direct payment account to balance it out, to top it back up. So you've got the funds there for your care. So that's a net direct payment. A gross direct payment, thank you, Joe, is when we pay the full amount. So the full amount goes out to you, and the contributions are invoiced to you or taken by direct debit straight from your account. So there's a bit of a mix at the moment. Some people have it as a net direct payment, and that historically has been the preferred method of the council. One, because they've taken the money before, From my perspective, and I'll put this into context shortly about the feedback we've had from service users, it is that doesn't always work well, especially when contributions change, your care changes, or there's various adjustments. And that's where it gets a little bit complicated. So the reason that we've made this decision to change all direct payments from net to gross, it is based on the feedback that we've had from yourselves, direct payment holders, and the social workers. And I'm just going to read a few of the top ones to you. Now, this might be relevant to you. You might have heard this before, or you may not have. So some of the feedback is, I feel if I don't pay in my contributions correctly into the direct payment account regularly, there'll be a shortfall of funds, and it will risk me having short of money to pay for my support. So that is where contributions change or adjusted. They're deducted before it's paid to you. And if you haven't changed your standing order or your payments in, there could be a shortfall in your support. That's quite often one of the top things that people have said. Also, if I decide to change to a managed service is where the council arrange your support, or have a mixture of a direct payment and a managed service, the process changes again, which can then be further complicated. We've also had feedback around remittance advice slips, how complex that can be. Putting it quite bluntly, the remittance advice slips are complex and no one understands what it means, especially when there are adjustments made. And I can say that is probably the biggest question and concern that comes back, is, can someone explain this to me? I don't understand what's been deducted, what's changed, and it's not clear or detailed on there anyway. And a lot of the time, the finance teams and the social workers would divert all those questions across to me to answer. And I must say, I see that quite frequently, and it's very challenging and difficult for me to understand it. And that's from the council. And to explain that, you know, we want to make it clearer and simpler. So that's one of the top ones that's raised. Another thing that's raised is mixing the direct payments money and contributions can cause some confusion when it comes to council clawing back funds. If it's not understood by the direct payment holder, they do feel that the council are taking their money. Another thing is direct payment monitoring and reviews are often delayed. They take several weeks or even months that I've seen to complete, because social workers have to wait for bank statements, and the monitoring takes a very long time when they're trying to work out figures and what comes back. We've also had issues with backdated contributions that go back several years. And if you have a net direct payment, it means we take that off before we pay it. It means that you may not have money for a long time. And as a result, not have the money to pay for your support. So they're a few of the top ones, not the only ones, but some of you may have heard some of these before or had this happen to you. So what do we want to, why do we want to change it to gross? We want to keep the direct payment funds and contributions separate. That's to make sure it works better for you. It reduces all the overly complicated processes that we have. It's more consistent practice. It reduces complex monitoring and adjustments. We want to make the process easier to understand, both for direct payment holders and social workers who have to explain it as well. We want to increase the uptake of direct payments and the confidence in discussing and encouraging it. And we do know that, you know, you've got a direct payment, it does work for you, you've got better outcomes, you've got more choice, flexibility around that. we want to encourage that, and we want to use it more in the council. And I think one of the downside of that is it's quite a complex calculation and things that we expect you to do. So it does put people off when we say you can have it and all the benefits of having a direct payment, but this is what you have to do, and it can be quite complicated. That's not the idea of it. We want to change that. We want to make sure that the reviews are not delayed and that they can actually be reviewed on time. We do know that it takes a lot of time to do the reviews, but also a lot of delays in doing the reviews because of having to get information. And we just overall want to have a better DP service. We want to deliver a better service, and we want it to be less financially driven. For those that are not fully aware of direct payments, it is actually a social care initiative. And that's what we want to promote. And that's what it was set up to be. And I think sometimes and along the way, over several years, it's got overly complex with practices and processes put in. And we, as I said, we just want to make that better for everyone. I do want to say, I said at the start, not everyone has a net direct payment, so this won't affect everyone. The majority of direct payment holders are already actually on a gross payment method. There's about 120 people already on it, and that's because they either have a mixed budget or that's the method that we've put it through right at the start. Oh, hello, are you still there?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Yeah, okay,
Yep,
sorry.
I can hear you. Just heard a bit of bird song there. I think it was in the background. Sounded like.
And that's it. We want to make it consistent for everyone as well. So we don't want to have a difference of those that are struggling to understand the net payments and having to update bank standing orders, when others can have a simplified method where we pay the full amount. You're aware of how much comes to you because it's agreed and it's documented, and all the contributions and any adjustments are dealt with by the finance team separately. And they can be taken by an invoice to you, or in most cases, people prefer to have a direct debit set up between the council to take the contributions directly. That avoids all the admin and paperwork and time going back and forth to banks to update standing orders and recalculate what needs to be paid in. And that's what we want to take away. So there's a lot of benefits in doing this to DP holders, and we've seen that through the ones that do have a direct payment that is gross. So we've got less challenges around the calculations. We've got an easier and more efficient way to calculate surplus and adjustments. It doesn't affect ongoing support. So if your contributions do change, your support is already agreed. You get the full amount coming into you. You don't have to worry about making adjustments to the funds. It's improved consistency and also direct payment. Those that are setting up direct payments in the council, so the social workers, it's easier for them to understand and explain it to people as well. Won't be short of money, and so, as I said, as it's not going to be deducted, you won't have a shortfall of funds in your account to pay for the support. You can change to a managed service or a mixed service with a better transition between the both. Remittance advice slips will be simplified and easier to understand, and the monitoring will be a lot faster. So that's, I mean, overall, the net direct payments are quite problematic. It does take a lot of resources and it takes a lot of people's time, both in the council and yourselves. It's difficult for many people to understand what is required of them. So the change will support direct payment holders better, deliver a better service, and ensure it's consistent and a fair process for everyone. That's the aim around. and I know there's a few people here that will have a mixture. Some of them, some of you here don't pay towards your support, so there'll be nil costs that won't affect you. Anyone that's on a gross payment already, there'll be no changes to that. That's not going to affect you as well. And your care and support plan is where we're emphasizing what is agreed. Your care and support plan is available to you. You should have a copy of it already. It should break down the support that's agreed, and it should have the funding on it as well. If you don't have that, you can always ask for it. It is your support plan. You can ask your allocated worker, and we can send that to you. And that will detail what's coming to you. And what's on there is what's agreed. So you'll have that per week coming to you without any deductions of your contributions from that. So it gives you a bit more reassurance about what money you're actually going to get every 4 weeks when it's paid. Quite often we get people saying, you know, this is what's agreed, but obviously you've made adjustments, there's changes to it, your contributions come out, you're never quite sure what you're going to get out of it when the payments come through. This makes it very clear that it's agreed what you're going to get, and that's what you're going to get every 4 weeks. And that's what's going to be detailed on your remittance advice slips as well. So that will be quite consistent. But I'm working quite closely with the finance team as well. And we want to make sure this works. And we're seeing it. And my view is we're taking it from your perspective. And we want to make it work how it should work. I'll stop there because I've done a lot of talking. But I think we were going to open it up to some questions.
Yeah, definitely. Just one question from me before we
sure, Jess. Yeah.
Everybody else. So there's 120 people currently on this system.
Yeah.
Were any of them moved? When they were moved? So when they changed to gross,
yeah.
Did they have any problems? And if so, what were the problems, and how were they overcome?
I think there were some that have moved that have historically been on net, so they're used to having a net payment. The understanding and that transition across, so it's the explanation and what that difference means to them. Having a net payment before, some people will know what the problems are by having net, and then they can see what the difference will be going forward, an easier way for them. There are many of them out of that 120 that went straight onto it, so they wouldn't know the net options that we had before. And some have asked for it to be done this way because they didn't like the complicated ways of deducting, and they felt actually less paperwork, the better. Take my contributions from my account directly by direct debit. I know what that's going to be because the finance team will send me a letter and explain what those charges are. I can go to the finance team about my contributions, my DREs, and how they calculate that. And the social worker is the one that will be managing my care and my support. So we're keeping that separate. What we don't want is a lot of social workers getting too involved with how the calculations and the finances are managed. We want to keep that separate. The idea of the support and the care is what the social workers are there for, and they want to prioritize, they want to support more on the care side of it.
Keep it nice and streamlined.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Does anybody have any questions? We open up to questions. If perhaps just your hand in the air and I'll come to you if anyone has a question. Monica, you can go first.
Hi, Melvyn. You mentioned that with this system, so can people claw back money if there is flexibility, or is this with this system you still have no clawback policy?
There will be still clawbacks. That won't change. That's never, I don't think, is ever going to change. But separately to this, there will be some other work that I'm doing that will help and benefit direct payments. There's a lot of work that I'm doing. My role has actually changed in the council as well. I mentioned to you, Monica, because you've known me for probably a few years now. I'm now going to be the self-directed support lead. So there's a lot more across the council that we're doing around people having more choice and control and reshaping how the council take direct payments forward. So I mean, in terms of the clawback, yes, that will still happen, but it will be simpler to understand, and it's going to be fairer in terms of how that's done, and there'll be more support to social workers around how that is done, because there could be mistakes made currently in the next one, which is open to human error. We have to calculate adjustments and the contributions going in. And by having the full direct payment paid by the council, we know all that money is direct payment money. There's no money in there that is contributions and personal funds.
So can I just following from that, does that mean that because the council will be paying, how much flexibility does the person have with regards to, having more care 1 week, less care that?
Oh yeah, that will still remain. There's no changes in that. I think currently there needs to be a bit more work around the flexibility. I think there's been quite a lot of control, so there will be changes around that. I would say if you want more flexibility and you want that clearly documented, and you want to move between having less support 1 week, more in the next week, you have that ability to do that, but we can make that clearer in your support plans as well. If you want to have that discussion with your allocated worker, have that discussion. They will always come to me as well for advice, and that is the principle of having it. We don't want to keep it to a routine every week, because that can change and it doesn't work well. But generally as well, the clawbacks, they're not done on a weekly basis, they're not done on a monthly basis, they're done over a year or when your review is done. So it's overall, you've got a bit of flexibility within that whole period. But if there's any concern. From
the user's point of view, we just need to make sure that our needs and our wants are well documented in the care plan.
Yes. Yeah.
So that the finance team can go, no.
Well, the good thing is as well, in terms of reviews and monitoring, it's not done by the finance team. So this is all going to be done by your allocated workers, your social workers that will understand your needs, probably done the assessment, and also set up a support plan. So there'll be a lot more control and support between you and your allocated worker. Finance team will not really have much of an input, I would say, in terms of the support and the monitoring. That will not be down to the finance team. The only thing the finance team will be doing is your calculation of contributions, so your financial circumstances, calculating DREs and what your weekly amount to pay is, and that's where we want to keep that. We want to keep that separate.
So the DREs will be. Can we add to them between assessments?
Yes, yeah. If your circumstances change, always come back to us. When we do the assessment and also the care needs as well, we don't expect that what has agreed is going to be, is going to stay forever. Things do change. It might change on a short-term basis, or it might be long-term. Something might happen in regards to your health, and you might need an increase for, say, 2 weeks or a bit more support just to help you through that. Always go back to your allocated worker. Our emphasis is that they are there to support. There are duty teams. Have that conversation with them. They are waiting for these phone calls. They want to have that rapport and understand what's happening with your support. So yes, please have those conversations. It is flexible. Things do change, both financially and within your care, and things can be adjusted.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Okay. Thank you, Melvyn.
Melvyn, can I just say that in my experience, a lot of the problems that have arisen with direct payments have been because of the fact that the reviews haven't been carried out as regularly as they were supposed to be. There's been long delays. I mean, we were told at one time that it was going to be annually. Many people that I speak to haven't had an annual review for a long time. Okay. It could be like 3 years between, and then they get stuck with. That's when they get the big bills for clawbacks and non-payments, because that time has lapsed without them being informed of anything.
Okay.
Is that going to change? Can you guarantee that? You
Well,
know, I know obviously you can't guarantee, but can you assure us that it will be the sort of the remit of the social workers to carry out regular reviews within a certain timeframe?
It should be and it should be best practice that it should be done as a minimum of every year.
Right.
That's actually in the Care Act as well. So we should be following those duties of making sure that reviews are done timely. Please also, if you haven't had a review for a long time, or you want a review, request one as well. People don't have to wait for the social worker to get in touch. You have the the right to request one when anything changes, or you feel that you need a review. Yes, dates will be set for when your next review will be. So there should always be a planned review going forward. Should always be. But we are working towards improving that. I'm aware that people have had long delays in having reviews. I think there's been a combination of why that might be, but it's not an excuse. It is improvements that we are making going forward, John. So but again, raise it to us, raise it as well to yourselves. If anyone has any queries, raise it to KCIL. I know KCIL is always in contact with us. If there's any changes or any issues, I know that you come to me and we'll address it. Direct payment holders also have the option to come and email, go through the contact center or our adult social care email address as well. It's all open. If you can't get hold or you're not happy with the results or decisions by the social workers, I'm quite happy to share something probably at the end, just our generic email address as well. I respond to that, so and I'm in contact with the social workers. So if you've been trying to make contact, for example, and not getting anywhere with your social worker or the council, let me know and I can take that forward as well.
Right,
but yes,
appreciate that. I must say that you proved to be very accessible to most of us and to most of our queries, and we appreciate you for that and acknowledge the work you've done on that.
Thank you, John.
Can I ask?
I think Maria has a question.
I've got quite a few.
Okay.
For those who will be going through the change from net to gross, when will that change be implemented? That's the first question.
Okay.
And does it mean that everybody new to the scheme, will they be from now on going directly on the gross? And following that question, would the social worker be informing the service user during the assessment how the payments are made, or you would kind of put it down to outreach worker to be explaining that?
Okay, so the implementation date hasn't been set yet. We are planning it for around June.
Okay.
The reason why we're saying June is because we do need a bit of time for the finance team to set up their processes that they need to do. They're going through reviews at the moment, and it's the financial year end. So we do want to make sure that they've got the resources there to set it up how it should work and how we want it to work. So we're looking at June. What we're planning to do is communicate to everyone that is on a net direct payment. So I'm planning to do letters out and communicate further. That will come directly from me. And the support will be there to transition as well. I will be doing a lot of that work. We'll set the date and I'll work with that person to explain when it will stop and then what will happen going forward. So there is a plan. It's either going to be between me, the social worker, but we wanted that one-to-one discussion rather than just a generic, this is what's happening, because that doesn't tend to work very well. People may want some more information or just understand what that change means to them. So there will be a bit more time. That's why we gave it a bit longer, just so that we have the time to do that. Any new ones since December already going on growth already? So the reason we've made that decision is so that we don't have to change it again. We don't want to get someone on a net payment and then a few months later change it to growth. There's more complications in doing that change, and it's more disruption for them, having to change their circumstances. So yeah, those that are new are going straight on it. I've not had anyone come back about being a problem or any concern. In fact, it's been very easy and very clear how it's set up, so they understood it better. You had a third question there. Sorry,
Well, it was basically coming around. How will this affect us at KCIL? Is there anything that we need to do differently?
Not really. What we can do is we can put something out, but it's just explaining that it's changed to gross, and that actually your support will be paid in full as per what's agreed by the social worker, and contributions will be separately invoiced to you or taken by direct debit.
For all the new service users, we don't have to talk to them about the change because they will not know the net payments. They will
That's right. Yeah.
start
Any
off
new
from
ones.
the gross.
That's right. Yeah.
And can I just ask very last question is, everybody's getting paid on 4 weekly basis, and you said there will be invoices for the contributions. Are they going to be 4 weekly? And is there any way of breaking it down on the remittance slip? This is your direct payment. Out of that, this portion is your contribution that you will have to pay by so and so date.
Okay, so currently the billing runs work different. So invoices are always in arrears, so they work separately. The finance, we're trying to get it so that it is done on a 4 weekly basis, so it matches the payments that are being made. We're working on that. But
so I think that's the main confusion for a lot of service users, receiving the payment and then 3 months down the line they receive an invoice. And we've had cases in the past where someone didn't pay contributions for more than a year and then suddenly ended up with £5,000 bills for unpaid things. So I kind of, with John's question, people really need to be regularly contacted if they fall in arrears about the contribution. And
that's something that we can pick up more regularly now as well. There's been a rechange in the finance team as well, so they're understanding better around the processes and what we want. A lot of the time they're coming to me now, so we will work together on those, and the systems that we're trying to put in place. The idea is to make it simpler and to make it run in line with how direct payments should work. The aim is very, very shortly, and I know I've been speaking with John Smythe. He's the adult social care finance manager, and he is working with me as well to get that lined up. So payments will be paid on a 4 weekly. The problem is with direct payments is we pay in advance. We pay in advance so that people have the money ready for their care. When we invoice for contributions, we invoice in arrears after the support's been done, but the date should be on those invoices or what comes out to you. They should have the dates on what that period covers. But yes, feel free to feedback, and we will ask people to give us, their experiences as well. And if there's any issues or any problems along the line, I'm here to make that, to make the changes to make it better.
So invoices will be monthly, 4 weekly with 4 weeks.
They're currently either 4 weekly or 5 weekly, depending on when the billing run works. But we're trying to make it so that it's done every 4 weeks, the same as we do with when we pay it. I can't
see it working if it's not much in the same period.
Don't forget, we are doing this at the moment, so it'll be interesting to know what, and separate to direct payments, all home care is done this way. So anyone that actually has any commission services through the council, we pay for all that support and we charge them in arrears anyway. We've been doing that for years. But yes, the alignment of that and how that works and setting those dates up is part of the process to make sure that we are getting it right going forward. So there is still a bit of work around getting that to that stage. The remittance advice, it only will show the payments that are made for the direct payments. It won't show any contributions because there won't be any contributions deducted.
But they will be included in the payment, and I think it will make it very easy for everybody to understand that you've received £400, but bear in mind 200 out of that is your contribution. So it will be very clear to the person what they should do.
They should be getting letters from the finance team that will explain exactly what their weekly amount will be. I can work. I'll take that on board there. I'll take that forward. You know, that's more of the details of how we explain that, but yeah, I'll make a note of that on how we can make that clear.
Waiting for a
Yeah.
while to
Yeah.
ask
We come to
Sure. Yeah.
zip now.
Do next.
Mute myself. Thank you, Melvyn.
Thanks, Maria.
Thanks,
Sue,
Maria.
you have a question?
Yes, well, you know, thanks to Maria's questions, I now have a question that I didn't know I had. So
Okay, hi, Sue.
might be a good example of this in real life, because obviously I'm quite new to direct payments. Obviously, well, not obviously, I didn't know that I was on, so I've been put on the gross scheme. Obviously, I didn't know what I was put on until now. However, I have not been aware, because I'm not aware of that, and I'm not aware of how it works. When I have been also on behalf of my parents. So I'm managing it on behalf of my parents who don't have the capacity to manage it themselves. But I have been paying their bills, if you like, that have been coming, as you've been just describing, out of their other account. I haven't been using the direct payment gross pay to pay their care bill from Kingston, their contribution, because I didn't know. It has not been explained to me, or I haven't understood that actually I should be paying their contribution from their gross, from the account that's been set up to manage their direct payments.
No, you shouldn't be.
I shouldn't be.
Paying. No.
So in this conversation, I'm thinking that that's what I'm doing. So I don't understand then why. So with this gross payments, what am I paying back to Kingston? I don't know. I'm more confused than I thought I was.
Okay. So what you're doing is the right way. The contributions that are invoiced to you, I presume they're invoiced to you, or are they taken from your direct debit?
They're invoiced. No, they're invoiced to me, and I've been paying them out of my parents' normal, ordinary account, if you like.
Yeah.
You know,
And that's how it should be, because the contributions are your personal contribution, your personal funds towards the support. The direct payments are for the care, so it should be fully used towards paying the care. So the way that you're doing it now is the right way.
Right.
It should be.
So obviously it's all being managed via pay packet anyway.
Oh, you got PAs in place, yeah. And that's also another thing, is that the money's always there for pay packet to take the funds from the account, which is all done by direct debits directly, isn't it? And they pay the PAs for you.
Melvyn.
Okay, good. Any other questions?
It's Kate.
Okay.
I can't get my camera up, but I've been listening.
That's okay, Kate.
I want to know, my contributions are taken out already and have been for a long time now. So is that still okay, or is that going to be changed? Melvyn, you know, you're waiting for an answer from me about the payment card. I don't really know nothing about it. Can someone send me details so I know what I should do? Yeah,
of course. In regards to the payment cards, it's separate to this, but I'm quite happy to speak to you outside.
Sorry if I'm doing it wrong, but because I'm told to come on and listen to you, I want to find out a bit more.
That's fine. I can give you some information about that.
Send it to me if you don't want to talk about it now. I'm quite happy to wait to you to send it me by that email or something if you want to.
That's fine. I can do that after the meeting.
Is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Because you'd asked me to answer you, but I thought I've got to find out what it's about, how you work it, before I can say yes or no, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, that's fine. And yeah, I'll speak to you after the meeting about
and the other thing, Melvyn, is my contributions are taken out already. Did that carry on?
So that's what the change is.
Yeah, my money that you had to take away, you've been taking it off me before I have it anyway.
Yeah, so that's what's changing. So we'll be paying the full amount to you. So you've got the full amount to pay for your care.
And I put the other bit aside to pay at the end of the month or whatever, every 28 days, yeah?
It's paid, the direct payments are paid every 4 weeks.
Yes.
And obviously at the moment we're deducting that first. So we're going to be paying the full amount to you. So you've got the full amount for your care, and the contributions will come out separately from your personal account.
I see. All right.
Keep that separate.
I see. Oh, that's quite right. Yeah, fine. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Maria, you have another question? I think you're on mute, Maria.
Mute myself. There you go. Based on what just Kate said, because she's going over the change, I feel a lot of people, direct payment service users, will receive the money in their account and think, oh my God, my direct payment's gone up. Because they won't quite understand the letter that might be sent through from you. Is there any chance that we could have the letter for Phil to simplify it in a...
Oh, of course, yeah.
really
Before this
plain
is all,
language?
yeah, Maria, before this all
Something a lot
goes
of
out and the
people
comms
get
are done. Yeah, before we do any letters or comms, it's going to be run through yourselves to go through to make it simplified. We're also going to go through the Involve group as well. I don't know if you know them in Kingston. So through the learning disability support, just to simplify it, put any easy reads that we need for it as well. So it's not just going to be a complicated letter being sent out, but also in addition, I'm here to support. We'll do the one-to-one conversations and people can speak to me directly. And we'll go through that on a case-by-case basis as well if needed. So we're just not going to send us a letter out, make the change, and expect you DP holders just to understand it. It's not the approach that I'm going to be taking anyway.
Right. Anne, do you have a question?
Yes, please. Morning, Melvyn. Can you just tell me? Sorry, I've got a very croaky voice. Can you just tell me? Is there a possibility, because the payments are 4 weekly, for someone like me, it's a nightmare, but putting that to one side, the invoices are based on a 4 week and a 5 week.
Yeah.
So the money coming out of personal account it varies according to the length of the month, which makes it very hard to set up like a direct debit or even a standing order. I think a standing order is probably more flexible, but it would be so good if it could be the same amount every month over the year, so that you don't have to keep changing it.
And that's exactly what we're working on. So the actual so you have a gross direct payment at the moment. So yes, your question around the billing run. Again, this is what the finance team manage. We're going to try and run that in line with the 4 weekly payments. So you'll have the same amount deducted every 4 weeks.
It's so easy if you don't have to keep thinking about, oh well, the invoice has got tucked under about 500 other letters all waiting for answers.
No, it does vary, doesn't it, between the 4 week or 5 week payment runs. But yes, the idea is that we wanted to make it in line with how we're paying the direct payment. So we pay that every 4 weeks. We want the contributions to be deducted every 4 weeks as well. So that's what we're working to, which will be the same. So 13 payments a year.
Yes.
The same amount every,
Much easier.
Providing it doesn't change, Anne.
No, well, that's up to you, Melvyn. You just keep using the same policy, the same dates, the same times, and we'll all be all right.
Does anybody else have a question for Melvyn?
I just wanted to ask Sue, because I just feel, Sue, you looked very confused when Melvyn explained to you about and said that you're doing the right thing. Is it all very clear now? You are on mute. Sorry,
You're on mute, Sue.
Sorry. Yeah, I suppose I was thinking, I'm still trying to get my head around it. I think it's beginning to take place, because I suppose I was thinking that I should be paying the contributions from the gross payment because of the way you were explaining the difference between gross and net.
Yeah.
And then got worried that, you know.
No, you're doing it right. But if we were going to ask you to pay it from the gross, we wouldn't bother taking it. We might as well deduct it. So the idea is that you've got the full amount. I think it's difficult in your position because you haven't seen what the net payments are like and how that could affect your support when things change. And I think I'm right that you're fairly new to direct payments, so you haven't had a review yet, or haven't gone through the full cycle of the process.
No. So I'm 3 months in, sort of thing.
Okay.
Like that gives you a clue. But also, like Maria was saying about how you communicate with people like me who are new.
Yeah.
How that works is probably an indicator that actually not very well, or that I didn't pick, or whatever way you used to do didn't work for me because I didn't understand it.
That's fine, and I understand that too. So if something's not working there in terms of the communication, that is something that we're working on as well in the council. And we're looking at doing more awareness around direct payments, explaining and training staff as well, because it's actually down to the social workers that have that conversation, and not everyone.
I didn't have any, and it's particularly obviously bad at the moment because you're not seeing anybody. So I haven't even met the social worker that I was communicating with, because we don't meet, you know, if you're not seeing people. So, you know, and I'm thinking that that's maybe missed because, you know, one time verbal communication and meeting people would have been a way that you would have explained, and because you're not doing that now, it makes the other ways of communicating more important, or, you know, than previously.
And I think because we've got a bit of a mixture at the moment and we're going through that transition, there is a bit of confusion around that. Once we've got this set up, we know the clear direction of where it's going to be. Staff will be fully trained on explaining that, and so they understand how it works, so they can explain it to you better. But yes, there will be more stuff coming out in terms of how we explain it and communicate it to people, both in writing and verbally, or through video calls, or whatever the option is that we need to do to it, you know, to make it easy to understand and explain the process, including the websites as well, where we're going to be updating a lot more information. But yes, I take that feedback, that more work needs to be done on communicating and explaining that better to holders.
Okay, we've just got a couple more minutes left. Has anybody got a question before we finish?
Just one.
Anne?
In the future, Melvyn, when you've sorted all this bit out, what's the possibility of trying to synchronise payments from RBK with the invoices? Because if you're going to suggest you can pay on a 5-week, I mean on a 13-week payment, why can't this be synchronised for a 13-week? I mean, 13 months direct payment. Just makes it so simple for people, because most people know they have to pay bills on a set date in the month, you know, like their rent or their mortgage or whatever they've got, and so on. Yeah. We seem to be living in the past a bit.
And I agree with you. I'm not disagreeing with you. I think it does need to change. This is the part of the work that I'm doing. Unfortunately, it's a finance system and it's a finance remit. So a lot of work that I'm trying to do is to change those processes and systems that doesn't really fall under social care. But that is the aim, and to make it lined up and to change that so that it does work as you want it to work.
We need to convince the accountants.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, the finance department's always been a little bit backward. I think that we get into the 22nd century almost, so that it catches up.
Okay.
The finance team are going through a bit of a change in terms of upgrades and system changes as well, and a lot of the work that I'm working on has been put into those systems to try and make it work for you. I do know, because I do have a lot of those conversations coming my way, and there is a bit of a who answers what. Is it finance? Is it my social worker? Do I go to Mel? Who's the best person to answer what questions? The finance team do tend to direct anything to do with direct payments to me, or to the social workers. But yes, we want to make a clear decision about what the finance team's remit is going to be and what we want them to be doing.
I think the user should be really consulted about this, because it's all right for finance, but I think at the end of the day, we have to keep grappling with these systems that don't work necessarily very well for some of us, or for most of us. If we had it, it'd be so much easier than all these different timescales and, you know, finances to be able to have a clear head over it all, so that people like Sue and others don't have to struggle.
Well, and that's my aim, is to try and take that away. You know, all the conversations that happens is all finance led. You know, we want to bring it back to social care. You know, the purpose of the direct payment is the social care initiative. It's about your support. It's about your care. It's not aimed to be a financial driven process, which is what it currently is. So I do understand your perspective on it, and that is what I'm trying to change in the council.
Keep the care front and centre.
And give you a party when you've got it sorted out. not in my lifetime, I say.
Sandra, did you put your hand up? Did you have a question?
I sort of waved the fingers.
Yeah.
I'm maybe out of order on here, and it may be just because I don't get the same paperwork as people like Anna and so on. But I always like pictures rather than words and so on. And I just wonder whether a nice simple flow chart couldn't be designed. I think Phil could probably do it. Saying, you know, if your problem is this, go that way. If it's not, then go that way, and so on and so forth. You all know what.
Yeah, we did
a diagram.
We did put one together, but I think it needs a little bit more work.
Updating, perhaps.
Yeah, we did. I think Joe did some work on it, but we can do that, Sandra.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions? Just one quick thing. Is everybody okay if we publish this on our website and on our social media? You don't mind if the video goes out to other people? No one has any issues with that?
No.
Okay, are you okay with that?
Yes, that's fine. Yes.
Brilliant. Great. Any more questions before we finish? Because we're just about to come to the end of the hour.
No, thank you.
No? Great. Well, just thanks everybody for attending. But thanks to Melvyn. Appreciate Melvyn's driven this and has done all the talking, so you deserve a cup of tea.
Jason,
yes.
The reminder came, this is why I'm sorry, I realise now how late I really am. As you know, I'm always late, but now I'm even later, because on the reminder it said 11:30. Oops.
My wild desire.
That's nice.
It should have been 11. I don't know how that's happened.
Many apologies, but anyway, I'm here. And I'm glad
You're
I'm
here now. And we'll send you a copy of the entire video and have a look at it. So if you've missed any.
Well, I'm sure I missed too much, but I just need to make that clear. Thank you. Good.
Okay, well, thank you everybody. Thank you for attending.
Thank you.
And if anyone has got any questions, perhaps either direct them to KCIL and we can direct them on to Melvyn and make sure we get everything answered.
Okay. Thank you for organising this.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.